Oh, and just one quick note, I apologize. I may have to step out to take a call quickly for Thomas, so
Okay.
don't mind me if I pop out for a moment.
We'll be fine.
1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4?
We do have one, yeah.
4 is
Just barely.
just.
Yeah. I don't agree with
Finish what I needed to get here.
Yeah. This is why, no.
Welcome everyone. Before we start, I just want to recognize and acknowledge that we are meeting on unceded Mi'kmaq territory. And let's call this meeting to order. Can you appoint a meeting secretary?
I can do it, I guess.
Brad?
Just take me.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
I was like, oh, I'll be free tonight. I'll just bring my notebook.
That's okay.
Next time.
And Brad, maybe I can email it to you if it's easier. Just the one thing with the minutes, when I've been getting them, they haven't been like on our template, which is okay, but then I've had to adapt them to our template. So do you have one of the old ones, or do you want me to email you one?
Yeah, you can, well, yeah, I'll just look up one of the
Okay,
old ones then, and then we'll.
awesome, if you don't mind.
Pass the.
Super for everything.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you very much.
Just give you a few minutes to set up. So you can while you're setting up, if you look at the agenda, number 3, declaration of conflict of interest. Looking at the agenda, anybody have any conflict of interest they want to see?
No, I don't see any.
Robert? Okay, so conflict of interest, we'll move to number 4. Is that okay, Brad?
Yeah, it'll just take me a few seconds to.
Yep.
I can write down names for these and then give them to you after, or put
Okay.
them in after if you want, and we can get through them.
Thank you.
So,
Works.
review and approval of the agenda. So the agenda was sent out. Everybody had a chance to look at it. If we're all in agreement to it.
I'll move that we approve the agenda.
Karen?
I can second.
It's going to be between you and me most of the
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
And I will second. Anybody opposed? We'll do it the short way. Motion carried. Adoption of April 20th minutes. Chance to read the minutes.
Yeah, I
I
think.
did
Any
read.
additions, changes?
I read them last week when they came out. I will, they were fine to me at the time when I read them, so I'm sure they
Same.
continue to be fine.
So I can second.
Okay.
So I'll make that motion then to
Okay,
approve the minutes.
motion to accept the minutes as presented, the April 20th minutes as presented, and Megan will second those. Any opposed? Motion carried. Items for discussion this evening. Small group discussion, I
Mm-hmm.
would
Yeah.
say.
Just have a little chat.
Chit chat.
Yeah. Do you want another minute, Brad, or how you doing?
Yeah, I'm just opening up just last
Sure. Take your time.
meeting's minutes, and I'll just go off that.
We have 4 policy review updates. Is it the same as last meeting?
Well, we can start with mine actually because we don't have an update this month.
Okay.
Both Morgan and I were very busy with other commitments, so we made no progress to speak of that's worth reporting. So, so for this month there is no report.
Okay.
Quick and easy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I'll just go in and get it done.
I feel like we're getting through this.
Yes,
Right
we're
now.
gonna be.
I can do healthy breakfast. And I would have taken more action, but I'm just waiting until the committee meets because basically I'm taking over a file for the province. We're down to staff. It's not even really relevant for the minutes, but I'm now the CPHO contact for that file. And so I'm just waiting for that group to have a meeting. We've only discussed some of the grants that I mentioned last time, so kind of just stand still until I get a sense of where they are at with things, because I don't feel like we can push ahead policies until we've got like
Yeah.
some of the buy-in that they've been working on with the stakeholders at the rec facilities first, so, yeah.
Do you know when you'll be meeting?
I think it would be next month, so I would hope to have an update. If it's not sent to my calendar in the next couple of weeks though, like I'm just getting delegated all of these things right now, so I'm trying to navigate that. If not, I'll just connect with the chair
Sure.
individually and just say, hey, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, sounds
Because I was kind of hoping that my colleague would be able to do that before she left, but she didn't have the time, so,
that's
yeah.
good.
And now it's me, so.
But it's been a,
I'm like wearing two different hats, but the same hat.
yeah. Yeah, I made a joke to somebody the other day that like my office is lined with hats. Like I just
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
Yes.
more hats than I have time to wear.
exactly, yeah, so. Yeah, so no real updates at all for the minutes, just that waiting on the next committee meeting for that.
Okay.
So that was.
Right, facility, healthy rec facilities.
Healthy food, yeah.
Yeah,
And then we had food waste.
There's no real updates with that either. Just until like, yeah, for the like food waste packaging aspect, we're, you know, kind of continuing on with the Bring It Charlottetown whenever that kind of gets up and going. I was thinking like, you know, we were talking about coordinating, you know, food efforts. I don't really know if that is a good role for us as like coordinating. I think we should potentially, I don't know if like incentives would be a better spot for us as the city, and then let industry develop their own methods, and then we just provide incentives to do it. Because there is a lot happening, you know, as I've been talking to restaurants and producers and stuff like that, there's more and more that I see people, you know, using waste in a different way. So there's a lot of hodgepodge things out there. Like I think our role would be better as a facilitator as opposed to coordinating anything, and let you know, industry kind of do that on their own. And I think like Bring It Charlottetown is essentially doing that already. So so it's just beefing that up, but you know, it's waiting until COVID's done, and then we can. In terms of like the consumer food waste, I think that's just more education. You know, having more information on the website and all that sort of stuff. I think that would be a lot easier for us anyway, and I think that's kind of where our role is anyway. So we can have more discussions about that, and you know, maybe talking and actually writing down some of the information, talking to some of the restaurants that are, you know, using spent grain from the breweries, and because I know what was it? Anyway, there's somebody making bread out of the spent grains now. You know, so it's all these small little things, but I think it's us giving some sort of incentive. I don't know what that would be, whether it's some sort of tax break or something, but I think there just needs to be more education for the consumer on the website. Maybe, I don't know if that's something that we would write up, or if we would talk with the communications staff for the city and, you know, try to get a little bit more information on that. But again, Bring It Charlottetown is kind of already doing that, so, you know, and like, the more I look at that program, it looks really good, and it's just unfortunate.
It is. I am curious though, like I know like the New Zero Waste Store and Bulk Barn have been cleared
Yeah.
to bring your own container, and obviously
Yeah.
it's different than say bringing a cup to a coffee shop. It's not like transferring as many hands, and like there's clear differences, but
Yeah.
I am curious, do you know if they're looking at that at all, or?
I spoke to one of the health inspectors, and they don't really look at it. They just essentially, there's the line within the, like the food premises, like regulations that just identify that everything needs to be cleaned and sanitized. So it's up to the people bringing the product in, or their containers in, to make sure that it's sanitized for them. And
Right.
obviously, there's common sense involved. Like if somebody brings in like a dirty container,
Yeah,
but that's,
but they were okay with people bringing in their own mugs?
yeah, they're fine with it as long as the containers are clean.
Okay, interesting. Because they, like, when COVID started, they were pretty like, we're not going to allow this anymore. But I was really surprised when they reopened, like happy, but surprised when they started allowing containers at bulk.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was like, just in general, they're fine with it. There's obviously COVID
So there may
issues
still be COVID issues.
that may,
I do know
trump
at Zero Waste, they provide you with containers that you can recycle.
They recently, like a couple weeks ago, opened it so you can actually bring your own now.
At Zero Waste, at
And
Mr.
bulk
Brown.
run. Yeah, they posted about it.
So maybe,
Yeah, please.
So, and I think what I'll do is I'll follow up with my office about this, because I don't think we want to get into gray areas.
No.
I think there's probably a difference between some of these bigger supply chains that are not like handling food products.
Yeah, and that's,
Because the
yeah.
And
market
that's
is
the
not
difference,
allowed
I
to
think.
accept. You can't bring in one
Exactly.
container.
I think that's probably the
Yeah.
difference, because at Mystery of Rock and then Bulk Barn, someone's not handling like that product and giving it
Yeah.
back to you.
I can for sure see
The
this.
It's receiving
stations are
something
set
and
up.
using your ladle to
Yeah,
touch.
exactly.
Yeah,
the
there's a lot
container
more.
coming in.
Yeah.
That's how it was explained to
Exactly.
markets.
Yeah.
So I can definitely, I don't know who you spoke with, Brad, but like which EHO you spoke with.
well, the one that comes to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
Environmental health.
I forget, Karen, I think?
Carry
Okay,
over.
yeah,
Karen,
so
yeah.
I can just have a follow-up, like confirmation conversation with her and like then the senior
Yeah.
EHOs. It's literally down the hall. I would just, rather than navigating that gray area, and then we know, and then we can either move ahead with some of the additional promotions.
Yeah.
Or not, yeah.
Because I'm just curious, and I mean, it's not really super pressing. I don't think we'd be really looking to relaunch Bring It Charlottetown in the next couple of months,
Yeah.
regardless of what their position is, more just
Mm.
from a staff standpoint, like lots of
Yeah.
factors. Like I wouldn't think we'd touch it till fall,
Yeah.
like no matter what, but I would be curious to know. So
Yeah,
even if you just ask in the next couple of months or something.
yeah.
Wait,
It's also
yeah.
fluid, that can change depending on how COVID.
That's
goes.
also very, very true.
Well, I mean, I would be, as a consumer, I'd be very reluctant to do that anyway.
Yeah, me too.
I
And
mean-
I'm like, I used to bring everything everywhere.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just.
Well, and with Bring It Charlottetown, the stipulation was, so it was like, it was Bring It Business, and the stipulation was that you have like your policy in place to be able to do that. And so we had talked about potentially relaunching with kind of like that clause of like,
Yeah.
you need this in place for when it's allowed again, and then you just have to meet all the other, because the other things are things that are easy to do right now. They're like, not like making sure everything's actually compostable or recyclable in the items.
Yeah,
that
I wonder
kind of
how,
thing, but-
I wonder how COVID will change all of this though, in
I
the long
know.
term, right? I mean, although I found out that I'm allowed to do this at Mr. Vrac, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, how long is it gonna take me to move from that mindset?
yeah.
I may never, right? I may be relying on
Yeah.
someone else's packaging or someone else's, anyway, I don't know.
I know.
Be interesting how
Very
that all
interesting.
unfolds.
Yeah, well, it'll take time for sure for people to, yeah.
But I don't see like the risk, like Bulk Barn and Brack, they're large businesses. Like Brack's, it's a franchise, right? They're not only here.
There's
Yeah,
a couple
yeah.
locations.
Oh,
There's
it's
not
like
that.
it'd
But-
be like
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, they have like a corporate office and stuff like that. Like my business is just me, like literally just me.
And that's what I'm saying, like
yeah,
they would have
exactly.
bigger, like they'd have,
So they have
Massive
plans in place.
operational
Yeah,
plans in place.
exactly. So the risk is much less for them.
Yeah.
It's the small people,
Where
where
the
they
risk-
don't have as much oversight and they don't have as much internal
Yeah.
policies.
and you would be handling that food on one side of the counter too,
Yeah,
versus like
exactly,
someone, no one's coming around to handle them the meat in your
Yeah,
fridge and
yeah,
then
yeah.
on their way, right?
Well, exactly, yeah, it would just be like when we were in Founders, people would bring their own containers
Yeah.
in, and we just put the product in that and be done with it. But-
Yeah,
And that's extremely low risk, but it's where people are filling their own things.
yeah.
That's where it kind of gets into.
Mm, so that's why I wouldn't do that at Bulk Barn.
Yeah.
It takes time. I mean, I don't even go to Bulk Barn anymore because
Yeah.
I'm terrified.
But I can certainly check in with them.
Sure.
I think, we can keep this dialogue going. I think the individual skill piece, maybe instead of like bring it, we sort of pull into some of, some of the food waste week messages that we had in the fall, like more, what do you do with your eggshells, when they're done? Well, you can mash them up and actually use them as fertilizer. Like kind of at that individual consumer level, what can you do in your household to reduce waste in that way? People know these kind of things, but if we can start getting that discourse going in that way, and I really appreciate too, I was thinking about it more, not formalizing that organic stuff that's happening in industry, like it's kind of like that top-down approach, like we don't need to formalize that. If things are happening, they're happening, but maybe we highlight some of the good,
Yeah,
like as a,
Yeah.
like almost like as a feature story on
Yeah.
our.
And that would be a bit of an incentive, right? You know?
Yeah, like if we had a food waste section that connects both to bring it, but, we then are highlighting, here's how our local food industry and food supply chain is actually working together to reduce food waste. Here's a feature story. I don't know what the incentive would be if they do that, but I like that idea.
Well, just
And-
just being celebrated would
Yeah.
be, or recognized.
And it goes
as a
back
bit
to
of a-
celebrating our assets, right? Like
Yeah.
that's part of
Absolutely.
the asset-based concept of our map, is like what's
Well, I
strong.
wonder if there could even be a way to tie it in with the map somehow, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
could
yeah.
maybe put in, this is a
Working
question for
with-
Tyler, but like the IT guy, but maybe if you could have, if we highlight a feature of something on there, you could have a little like something there to click and go to the webpage where the story is or something.
Hmm,
Yeah.
I like it.
But, so yeah, it would be a matter of putting the stories together, and they could go on social media, of course, as well. And the process is pretty simple for that. It would just be if you guys were to do something up, I can do website updates, and then it's just a matter of basically comms wouldn't do it for us; they would just approve kind of where it goes live.
and then in terms of the composting, it's just that one bylaw change
Yeah.
that needs to be done once are we going to be speaking to the bylaw officer?
So
What was the
Bernie,
plan for that?
Okay.
Okay.
So, the lone bylaw officer is extremely busy,
yeah, as you'd expect.
and he politely bowed out of coming to a meeting. Just too busy in his daytime job, and
Yeah.
he has a young family. He did suggest that if we could put some questions together in regards to any bylaws that we have questions about, he would do some research and get back to us with answers.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to taking an evening to come and.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
So I said, yeah, okay, I'll get back.
It achieves the same, similar outcome anyway. right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So,
So something like your recommendations, Brad, could go on that. Like, what does he think of?
Yeah,
Kind of highlight the problem you see. This is your proposed solution. What does he think?
yeah, exactly.
mhm.
I mean, ultimately, strangely, it's like really not his say. Like that, I looked into that bylaw. I think it's well, I mean, and maybe it is more on that one because I do think that that particular bylaw falls under police.
For the nuisance bylaw.
Yeah. But like, for example, if it was a different bylaw that did not fall under police, which most of them do not, it would be actually like that department, and then it would go up through council, and we probably could do that without ever even touching the bylaw officer. But
Yeah.
But you had commented it's good
but
to
it's good for sure.
get them involved, or him, because there's only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I
They
think.
enforce, but they're not
Yeah.
going to change the bylaw, they're just enforcing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the realities of having to enforce
Yeah.
whatever we're proposing,
Yeah.
I think
No,
we
absolutely.
might be able to shed some good light on that.
Yeah, I think, again, recommend some, practicalities or assess the practicality
Yeah.
for us to say, this is not a good idea because
Yeah.
there's no reasonable way that this can be enforced.
Exactly, yeah. So,
Or yeah, can be easily enforced.
Yeah.
You may have zone ideas like, that,
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
your
yeah.
suggestion is, and plus.
Yeah, or did you think of this?
exactly, yeah, because I'm sure he has things that he thinks about
Yeah.
all the various bylaws he has to
Sure.
enforce.
And like that engagement early on is just like a sign of respect for his
Yeah.
work, but it helps that enforcement too, like, and even, if we're thinking there's other bylaws in parts of these topic areas that we may get to, so that engagement is there and that partnership and relationship is there.
Sustainability, like
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
done in
Yeah.
hopefully
Social
carries.
sustainability.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay. That was the bylaw officer.
Yeah, so Brad, if you want to send me kind of what you've got, and I can, if anybody wants to send me anything they've got, like Karen, if you guys have questions related to yours, and I'll kind of compile it all.
Yeah,
Oh,
for sure,
okay.
yeah.
And once I can pass that on to him if you like.
I think that'd be very useful, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're good with the question, like, if you need anything from me, just follow up.
Well, yeah, I
I
mean,
think
for
it
the
was just
for the
us.
composting, it's just that when there's really no bylaw issues with regards to like food waste
No.
or like
It's just
packaging waste.
packaging waste, but it's just that one.
Yeah.
And like, no one's enforcing it, obviously. People are composting in their backyards and no one's saying anything, but.
No,
it's-
exactly.
We just wanna change it
Yeah.
so that
So that no one's
someone
breaking the
can't be
law.
like,
Exactly, yeah. yeah.
oh, this is unsightly to me, I don't want you.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
gonna call
yeah.
it. Or, you know what, I don't like you as a neighbor, I'm
Yeah.
calling you in.
Yeah,
Because
you
you have a
avoid
com-
pettiness.
Yeah.
Exactly,
some
yeah.
level.
I did have a thought and a question.
Okay. So I have just like an action item to generate those questions and give them to Katrina.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then one for me to pass them along to Todd.
Okay, we're good with this, with that one. Greenhouses, Phil sends his regrets. So there's the general provision for building and structures, accessory buildings. It doesn't mention anything greenhouse on it, but they say at the city that it's an accessory building, but when I read the accessory buildings,
It's not in
It's
it's not on it. If you go through, so I kept looking through the bylaws, and so there's one under prohibited, says temporary plastic garages or garages or
Garage.
garage are prohibited in all zones. So, but it's very temporary plastic. Well, a greenhouse is seasonal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is plastic,
It's
or most
plastic.
importantly, yeah, I think,
That
So
must be
this,
the clause that they use to shut down.
Shut down the Holland College one, yeah.
yeah, so it's very vague. So then you keep reading, there's another one that says undeveloped land. You can have, and it talks about a greenhouse. There's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H items that you can build on this undeveloped land. Has to be 100 meters of lot in the frontage, 2.45 acres of total area of your lot that's undeveloped. On that, you could put potentially a greenhouse.
so it's a large greenhouse then.
That-
That'd be like,
That's
that's a
a
van
more
camp, it's kind of,
industrial.
that's a van camp, that's a commercial greenhouse.
Yeah.
But your lot has to be 2.5 acres?
It's
Yeah.
so broad yet
Yeah.
so specific.
Yeah,
Who has a 2.5 acre?
It's too
lot
In
lot
Charlottetown.
Yeah.
and it doesn't
Yeah.
say.
It's a commercial, it's a commercial lot.
It's a
yeah.
commercial
Yeah.
lot, yeah.
And it doesn't say industrial,
Oh,
like,
okay.
it doesn't say residential, it just
No,
says
yeah.
that's the size of your lot.
Yeah.
Now, another one says mixed use is for greenhouse, and it's a nursery retail. But that's
Like
all
a
it says.
supermarket then, like Sobeys or Superstore, I guess, would be maybe
Yeah.
that.
Maybe. And then there's number 36, light industrial zone, M1, you're able to do it, but, and then it has all these like associated square footage and
Oh, yeah.
36-112 and 38-114 talk about greenhouse, but it's private industrial or private industrial. Nothing residential. There's in the appendix, there's a greenhouse definition.
Okay.
I'd have to look it up again, I didn't write it down, but it was just like a temporary structure, seasonal. It doesn't say like where you can put it, how you can put it, what bylaw you need to look at in order to have it. It's in the appendix, we can go back. 411, one of the sections, permit may be issued for a temporary structure when for a greenhouse or other seasonal structure. But then if you keep reading 5.223 says temporary plastic garages are prohibited. So if I went to buy something and said, well, look, I'm following 411, it says temporary structure, I can get a
Yeah.
permit for my greenhouse, but then someone comes along because they don't like my,
Like the look of your greenhouse or
Like the look.
something.
yeah, so they can use 5.23 and say, well, I need to get rid of that. So a little bit of work that maybe
Yeah.
we need to do as a council to come up with maybe more cohesive guidelines as to what kind of building is called a greenhouse, what can you use for the greenhouse, like for materials to build, where can you put it?
Yeah.
And my mind is almost going, like, I'm just thinking about like why a bylaw like that would have been developed. Like, I don't know, but like, I'm now thinking about shelters too, like plastic tents. Like, are they then gonna be like, no, like, why is that a problem?
It could have been in response to something at some point,
Yeah,
but with no very, maybe
because it's so
afterthought.
broad.
Yeah.
Well, I think that those plastic garages are, I think that's a very specific, I think you
Yeah.
addressed a very specific
That one is.
issue for
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But it says temporary plastic garages, right? It doesn't say structure, correct?
I think it says garage, is that what you said, Bernie?
Temporary plastic garages.
Garage,
But you can get those at Kent's,
or Canadian Tire.
Canadian Tire.
Yeah.
But you just can't put them up in the city,
I guess, yeah.
yeah.
Which is,
You're not, or certainly not in a place that's visible to others, I guess.
yeah.
Did people, well, they wouldn't have used that in the winter because of snow.
Oh, no, they were, absolutely. So that's what, I don't know if you've been to Quebec and, like often
Yeah.
in Quebec City, you'll see
I'm
them
trying to think.
kind of in the front yards, you know how they
Yeah.
have, and they will have them there sort of as a spot
drive-in.
to, yeah, kind of a spot to just keep their car covered and keep the snow off their
Yeah.
car.
Mm-hmm.
And they aren't that attractive. They're quite ugly, in fact, but, I mean, they serve a practical purpose.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just thinking in this way because like they'll come back with reasons, and so like if we can back up, if we can just think about in
I
the
would,
bylaws head, why is it like this?
Yeah.
What are the possible options? And as you were talking, I sort of started thinking about like actual garage structures people want to work on their car in the summer if it's hot, or like keep it out of the heat, or in the winter like keep the snow off, or like where I don't think there was that big of a homeless tent. Like I don't think so.
Oh, no, it's not a homelessness
No,
issue.
but I think
I don't know what
that's,
the
either
narrative-
way, it's discriminatory though, because those folks wouldn't be able to technically set up temporary structures with a plastic,
Well, so long as it's not a garage, they can.
I guess so.
It's, I mean, we could argue the points.
Yeah.
We don't know the narrative as to why they wrote these.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that if you were able to seek a bit of a legal opinion,
Yeah.
although a homeless person likely would not be able to do that, but maybe an advocate for them could.
Yeah,
I think you could.
advocate for that. I'm just
Advocate
thinking
for
about the
that,
rationale,
but-
like why is it there and like how can we get green?
But I think the specificity of the garage,
Yeah.
I know you don't like that word, but,
Garage?
Oh, but I don't know, you're just like saying it
I'm
and
just making fun of it because
Oh.
I seem to, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
okay. I thought you were being kind of like.
No.
I think it's both.
Anyway.
It's like potato.
Yeah.
No, there's only potatoes, there's no potato.
I know.
But I do think that, the specificity of the garage, as I think that there was a clear intention with that, was to sort of prevent those sort of unsightly structures being erected in people's front yards.
must have been common and they wanted to.
There must have been a period of time when that was a problem here in the city, and so as a result, they must have received sufficient complaints that they responded with
Yeah.
this specific, I think, bylaw to address that particular issue. I have a vague recollection of that. It was quite a while ago, but
I couldn't find plastic roof bylaw. I know we
Yeah,
had been
yeah.
discussed or mentioned.
yeah.
Can't find it.
I mean, I don't really think that there's anything in there that says clearly that you can't have a greenhouse.
Yeah.
No. I think it was brought up, if I recall properly.
Yeah.
Because someone did put one up.
Yeah.
Holland College.
Holland
and they
College
asked them to
did.
tear it down.
Yeah.
So-
Because they said that it met. Must have been that
Someone
height and
determined that
everything.
it met the criteria of, or they, or
Because
they
it's
filed a
temporary
complaint
class.
under that bylaw
Unsightly.
on some kind of an unsightly
So,
plastic covered
so would it be to
structure.
ask the questions of the bylaw officer on the bylaws? Like,
Yeah.
how would you interpret these?
I think that's a really good question. Yeah, ask him how he would interpret
And if there's
those.
no definition of garage in the back, like is there a definition of garage in the appendices? Probably not. So
No, I didn't see.
Yeah,
that could be interpreted as, well, the definition of that is
that's
to
that's right. Yeah,
cover-
yeah. So a garage is just it's
For
a
a
plastic
vehicle.
structure, right? Yeah. In that case, if there's no clear definition of what a garage is.
The exercise is more to ensure that we do have a bylaw that's clear. So if
Exactly.
you want to
I
move
agree.
forward,
Yeah.
we
We
can.
know what
Yeah.
that means.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
Right.
And
now
that
it's
someone
like-
can't call up and say, well, 5.66 says this, so we're gonna loosely interpret it and shut your project down.
yeah.
Because it's very unfortunate for the Culinary Institute.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that time, it was. Yeah.
That's really too bad.
It was very disappointing.
It's something big like that, and other people hear about it, it's like, well, I'm trying to.
Well, of course not. Yeah. But having said that, you know, like, Phil does have a greenhouse, although he has the 2.4 acres.
Phil.
Yeah, and he would fulfill those requirements under that commercial,
Yeah.
what we're interpreting as a commercial definition of greenhouse.
And then they throw in accessory building, which has to be, it's like there's formulas and a bunch of stuff here about the size of it and the square footage and the meters, the height, the total gross floor. Yeah,
Again, so broad and so specific all at once.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so it would make sense to also include maybe under that greenhouse bylaw one for, specific for, because if greenhouse is already defined, maybe just, building on that definition of greenhouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then adding, an extra line under that greenhouse portion of the bylaw that also says
A personal
a greenhouse,
of this size
and maybe there are minimum lot requirements for that,
Yeah.
and, I don't know that, but,
But would there be minimum, like,
yeah, that's the thing, I guess,
it's not like the chicken piece where there would be minimum lot requirements.
Oh, absolutely, and
size.
I think,
Like, this isn't like about animal welfare or like human kind of,
Well, yeah, like you would have to follow the rules for any outbuilding that
Yeah.
you'd be putting
Yeah.
up. And then,
yeah,
so you'd have to be, 15
Yeah.
feet away from,
Exactly,
yeah.
or within your property or whatever.
yeah, no different than like if I was to build a shed or something in my
Exactly,
backyard.
yeah,
But
yeah.
there's not the specificity of like, it's not like the soil quality is gonna change because you built this structure in your backyard. Charlottetown soil is at risk.
Let me tell you about Charlottetown soil. No, I'm kidding.
That's a whole other story, but yeah, I think, I don't see how it would be any different than just
Hmm.
It just creates questions. Like,
Yeah, and I think that these are some really good questions for the bylaw officer, yeah.
There's also Jessica Gorel, Corkin
Gorel.
Gorel. She's the arborist.
But yeah, our tree wizard.
She may have
Yeah,
insight on that as well.
there could be applications there,
Yeah. Again, it's showing, wanting to work with others.
Exactly.
Look at this
I
one.
think you're like poking the right holes in this to see where we can see that solution that we need. I think you're
Yeah.
probing the right questions to come to.
What's in their book,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what they would use, I guess, if they wanted to stop someone from.
yeah. So how can we prevent that stopping
Yeah.
from happening? And what are there implications? Like, obviously, we wouldn't want someone to build a greenhouse the size of this council chambers in their backyard.
No, and I think that goes back to
Yeah,
Brad's
yeah.
point where, you know, it's just,
It's following
you know,
the
following
same
the same requirements
shed.
as any sort of backyard outbuilding
Yeah,
would have
If you
to.
have this gross square area on your lot,
Lot.
and your fence is here, you can only build the shed
Exactly.
Yeah.
this size,
yeah,
so close to the fence.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing would
Yeah.
apply
Apply
for
to a
greenhouse.
greenhouse, except that it's a shed, except that it has a plastic roof.
yeah.
Which you cannot park your car
Under.
under in the wintertime.
But like if you made a glass greenhouse, that's okay?
Yes, I think so, based on.
It's
the
just
sounds
the
of it.
plastic.
Sounds like
People are
it.
concerned about.
Sounds like it's a very weird gray area that.
It is, oh no, there's a lot of,
Because it's not in there, they probably could stop you from doing it.
So if you have money, it's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you can afford a glass
Yeah.
greenhouse.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Don't throw stones in it though.
They know they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would be
Not
worth
fully
looking, I don't know if you guys talked about this while I was gone, but it'd be worth looking at how it's worded in other
There's-
municipalities.
Yeah. Vancouver Island has almost a small booklet part in their bylaw.
About green.
Greenhouses
Oh, that's,
and front yard gardening, and it's, yeah.
Yeah.
There's things there we could use.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Their seasons are much bigger,
They have, yeah, they have a different growing season.
so, you know, but because we have a shorter growing season, I guess a case could be,
Maybe for
So
the
then we need it,
necessity of a
because we don't have-
greenhouse, absolutely.
yeah.
We need it even more.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so next step would be, I guess we'll share all the questions that we have with the bylaw officer.
Yeah, I think that's the next step for all of these.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And if there's any other stakeholders that need to be engaged for each individual one, but, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll leave that one aside. Next up is city update, food waste act funding application.
Yeah. Just a quick update, we talked about it last time, the funding application was going into the Climate Challenge Fund. Just wanted to update you that that did indeed happen. So basically, the application is a partnership with Farm and Food Care to implement a food waste diversion app in Charlottetown. So what the grant covered was money to a coordinator to kind of run like the promotions, marketing, like training, one-on-one outreach, that kind of thing to recruit people to the app. And then we also ended up, so originally we had been talking to Food Mesh, who works out in BC, but then we started catching wind of Second Harvest, who works here. So we're having some really great interactions with them. So obviously, it makes sense to go with somebody that is already working in the area. So that isn't established when we don't even have funding, but having really great chats with them that I think will be a good partnership, regardless of whether we get money. I think there's like ways to support them in the work that they're doing through the city and through the Food Council. But we also put in some money in the grant to cover like infrastructure for example, if like the food bank wants to put in a community fridge, or like somebody wants equipment so that they can preserve the food they're getting, that kind of thing. So we put in a bit of money for that as well. So hopefully we'll get it, we'll see. I don't actually even know when we find out about that one, but I think it's a great explanation. So that's that. And yeah, so that's really it. But and I'll keep you updated with the Second Harvest stuff too. They're really great to work with if anybody's talked to them. But yeah, so that one.
Okay. Thank you. Community Sustainability Microgrant Program.
Yeah. So we just did that. The results have already been figured out for it. But one application, so we ended up getting an application from Sandra, like Sheena's daughter, for the community fridge project.
Yeah.
And although the selection committee was very in favor of the project as a whole, we didn't end up funding it because a lot of concerns came up that weren't necessarily addressed in the application and that I don't think have been addressed, just in terms of like planning talking about gray areas and zoning and development, like where they want to put it, it probably needs a building permit, but it falls in a great place. So there's conversations that need to happen by that nature, and even just considering like liability type things, and there's some concerns about, because they would need to run electricity to it, so Public Works has some electrical concerns. Anyway, I think everything is surmountable, but we didn't want to hold up. Basically, the concern was if we give them a micro grant without these being figured out, it's like a stamp of approval from the city that we're not ready to give. So what ended up being decided was that we would go back to them with a list of questions, which has now been done. So Sandra has those, and we'll see, depending on what she answers, there may need to be some other meetings within this, with city departments and things like that. But basically, once the city's ready to give the stamp of approval, it would be nice to still be able to give them money.
Yeah.
So in past years, there has been money taken from the food budget for microgrant. So we're not really there yet. And like I had said, I mean, technically, we retain the ability for staff to use those funds this year. They're not strictly food council funds. But I did just want to get thoughts on, once it's been sort of settled, if you guys think that would be a good use of those funds to give, say, a $2,500 essentially micro grant to that project.
Oh,
From the
definitely.
food budget.
Yeah,
That's not
definitely. I mean,
much money at
we're
all.
all fully in support of it.
Yeah.
I do have a quick question though. Like,
Yeah.
what do they need a building permit?
So similar, so they're going to build a structure for it. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
I
want
thought
the
it was just going to
shelter.
go in an existing structure.
No, and that's what some of the questions are kind of like, why can't we put it in an existing
Yeah,
structure?
yeah, that
Why
would-
can't, they want to put it in kind of like the middle of, not the middle, the edge of the parking lot over at the Sherwood Lions,
It's-
something or other?
It's at the Parkdale Sherwood Lions Club in Goal.
Thank you. So they want to put it out in the parking lot though, so there's no electricity going to it.
Oh.
So they're kind of going, why can't it go right next to a building and use the electricity from the building? And then there's just a lot
You're
of
walking across the parking
uncertainties.
lot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm going into this.
Right, and then that's the thing too, they were like, what about have you considered neighborhood disturbances? Like if you're attracting people to this location at all hours of the night, like there's houses around there.
Oh, I didn't mean that. I just meant the stigma around.
Stigma
Oh, that
around,
too,
yeah.
that too.
I mean, I think the original concept around community fridges, as I understand it, is that they're in places where people are normally present. Like you don't, it's not a destination to go to that community
Yeah.
fridge. So that, as an example, at a daycare,
Yeah.
sort of,
Outside of the
Yeah.
library.
or, at the library where there are people, and where there are, a proportion of food insecure people sort of
Yeah.
already gathered, so to speak.
Exactly.
And so it's just that, it's accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't they doing the curling club? Isn't that going to become some sort of a community?
I think,
Spot.
so there is the community outreach funded by the province, like
Yeah.
that started and then it got moved further down Hillsborough and they want to move that to the curling club.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're sitting in the
Probably,
gentleman's
yeah.
That's holding it back, but.
None of us want to be who we are tonight, the names tell us we are. But I think, that would be a great place for something like
Yeah.
that.
Exactly.
That
a great
that
point.
kind of
Because it's
location.
within walking distance, you could, not
Exactly.
everyone has cars, and food insecure people are
Living there.
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
likely to not have a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's some kinks to work out.
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, I would agree then, yeah, absolutely.
And so, but I just kind of wanted to float that idea of using some of those funds.
Oh, absolutely,
towards that.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We did write a letter.
Of support.
Sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've already indicated our support for the
And
project.
when they did present, we asked if they needed financial support at the time,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
said no. Like, they didn't even ask for a letter of support. We were like
I know.
saying, we'll do
Yeah.
something for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And 2,000 whatever isn't really anything.
No.
And we,
Mm.
we don't have projects on the go in the same way that we did for like
Exactly,
the
yeah.
community consultations.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I'm in support of that. I would be interested to know some of those questions and how that location was selected. Is there data to select that location? I
yeah.
just think
If you-
downtown is what we talked about, but maybe there's not enough data to support that. I just feel like there's enough people in Queen Square.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I know
food
that's a
insecure
good
that are
question. I
working.
think we asked the question of why that location, but if I
Yeah.
didn't, I'll follow up with, I'll send her an
Yeah,
email with it.
yeah.
I think I asked that question, but.
I mean, ultimately, it would be great if there was one in one per
Yeah.
ward someday, or that we
Yeah.
didn't even need them.
Of course.
Well,
that would
ideally,
be-
yeah.
That would be the
Yeah.
dream, that we didn't need them,
Yeah. But I think, and the biggest concern that came up with the selection committee was they don't see this as a one-off thing. So
Mhm.
they
They'll keep
want it to
coming
be,
back.
they want it, get it right the first time. They want to know what permits it needs. They want to know what kind of regulations we have around it.
Yeah.
Because they see it as something, a really strong idea that is probably gonna get replicated
Yeah.
relatively
Mm,
quickly, and so they wanna make sure, which is great. I was happy to see like everybody
Yeah.
excited about the project.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
But yeah, just sort of wanted to float that idea, so
Yeah.
great to have your support
Perfect.
on that, but that's really all that was. And if anybody else has questions that they want passed along, just let me know and I can do that.
No, I think you covered it.
Yeah,
Sounds like it was well thought out.
sorry.
Sounds like it was well thought out. New business. I have, maybe I'm gonna add something to the new business, would be reporting to the subcommittee. We, according to our terms of reference, we have to report yearly. Or
Yes.
what's the date on that? Is there like a,
No, there's not a date.
No.
I know Karen, you did it last year.
We did it last year in the spring,
Yeah.
probably about this
Around
time of
now.
year, yeah, around
Yeah.
now.
We do have a committee meeting coming up in a couple of weeks that we could probably, the agenda's not super heavy if you were free. I will talk to Ramona though, because I'm not sure, I mean, it would be great to have you, but we just did the big, like I talked about last time, we kind of did that
Right.
update to them that was more staff driven. But,
I mean, the staff, if we agreed on a report, I'm not sure if the food council members need to be there. It's just it
Yeah.
just says report back to the subcommittee.
yeah,
Um,
and I've taken like,
Really, I wasn't sure
5
about that.
reports on the food council in like the last 7 months probably, so.
Okay, so they've been right, there has
So
been regular
well
reporting.
updated.
So they have enough.
So
Yeah.
let me talk to, I have a meeting with Ramona just to check in on Thursday morning, I think, so I'll double check with her that, because it's a pretty big requirement. So
Yeah.
if that's sufficient, then we're probably in the clear.
Okay.
And if she would prefer you to do a presentation, I'll touch base with you and I can get that on in the next couple of months anyway.
Perfect.
If that sounds good.
Every now and then you sit down and read the terms of reference, and say, oh yeah, I know we're doing this, yeah. Ooh, what's that? What's that?
It's easy to forget.
Okay. Any other new business?
No.
No? No new business? Okay.
Wow.
20 after 6. Some people haven't eaten yet.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Right? I'm sure you have.
Oh, you want to get a bite?
Have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'm always reluctant to do that. I'm never the one that does that. I'm bad to that.
I usually am the one in motion and, I'll second.
Alrighty,
Thank
I will
you.
stop the live stream.
Motion adjourned, 6:20.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Work everybody? I would absolutely.